It's Erev Yontif, and the sugi we're in is Erev Yontif. It's Rosh Hashanah, it's Sesame Tshuva, it's Yom Kippur. We were talking last week about the chiluk of, I guess, for lack of a better term, conventional davening and Yud Gimel Midas Harachimim davening. The conventional davening is taking place, the dialogue, so to speak, the relationship is unfolding in the realm of Zeir Anpin, of the lower spheres, how Hashem conducts the world, Akash Baruch Hu is the king, and we try to listen to him, and Melech B'mishpat Yamid Eretz, and so on. The Anhaga of this world, how this world is taken care of. And we speak to the king, we beseech the king, we beg the king, we ask him for things that we need, and so on. We praise the king, we thank the king. All of that is part of that regular world of davening in the lower spheres of Zeir Anpin. But then, like we saw by Kriyas Yamsuf, is the most obvious and famous example. By Kriyas Yamsuf, we see where we were told not to daven. And not only that, but we saw this week, the Chazal tells us that Hashem closed his ears. There's nothing, it's not a matter of responding to you. I'm not responding to what you're asking me. Hashem is I'm revealing now something that comes from a place from before creation, that comes from a place of higher will, of Ratzon. I'm not making any distinctions between good boys and bad boys. The Egyptians are out. They're not part of this program. And Akash Baruch Hu revealed the Midas Harachim, what did take place. However, then we'll see in the note a little bit from the Gra and other tzaddikim. What did take place, of course, by Kriyas Yamsuf was an act of Mesirus Nefesh. That's what did take place. In other words, we don't. It's the Ikka by Yud Gimel Midas Harachim is not the words that we say. Those, of course, we say the words. Hashem Karachim Mechan. Hashem instructed us to say these words. But we have to be ma'orer. We have to somehow unlock that treasure of the 13 meters. And that's why we spoke a little bit, maybe for a minute last week, but that's what we'll see a little further on, that even the Lashon of Chazal is, Chazal say that any time in the future that you're in trouble, or there's something that, you got your back up against the wall, there's no way out, like we were at Kriyas Yamsuf, then Ta'asu L'fanai Kisei Hazeh. It doesn't say, the original source of Chazal does not say, Yomru L'fanai Kisei Hazeh, just say these words. It doesn't say just say the words. Ta'asu, to do something. There's a certain act of self-sacrifice, a certain act of Mesirus Nefesh, that when you and I, when we're called upon, we take ourselves into a realm higher than our normal midas. Normally, when it comes to the decisions we make in life, so we operate within the lower spheres. Of course, using our seichel, Chabad, but our way of going back and forth is with Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes. That's how Chag Yisrael Malchus. That's how we operate. That's what we're thinking. So you'll have a Jew. We spoke about this many times. You'll have a Jew that in that world of the lower spheres, he might not be religious at all. He doesn't put on tefillin, doesn't daven. He might even claim that he doesn't believe in anything. But then when it comes to a moment of Mesirus Nefesh, he drops all of the lower spheres, and he ascends to something higher, to his essential self, that Ratzon Ha'elyon of who he is. And that is demonstrated by the Mesirus Nefesh for another Jew, for Am Yisrael, for Akash Baruch Hu, and so on. And by doing that, there's a hisayrus of Yud Gimel Midas Harachim. It awakens, it arouses the Yud Gimel Midas Harachim. So let's just start reading a little bit inside. Ba'miras Yud Gimel Midas, on the middle of page Ayin Zayin. Ba'miras Yud Gimel Midas Harachim. When we say these Yud Gimel Midas Harachim, so we are trying to awaken, to access the Midah of Keser, the highest sphere of Keser that transcends all the Shakta V'Tarya of mitzvahs, masam toivim, averis. It transcends all of that. We try to awaken, to access that midah of keser. And that's not the normal way of davening. We praise Hashem for these 13 midas that He revealed to us, and by doing that we proclaim our faith that there's something higher than the usual hanhaga of this world, and I have also something higher within myself that I'm trying to connect to. By this, of course, is very much connected to the blowing of the shofar. Without going into details right now, now would be the right time, I guess. But it's a whole big sugya. But the inyan of Tkir shofar is also, it's not davening. It's not davening. It's not a regular way of davening. It's not the way of saying something or expressing something. It's this primal scream that comes from the essence of who you are, like an animal. It's not trying to articulate, to explain, because in order to be ma'oira the rachmim pshutim, the simple rachmim of keser, of crown, that's higher than any shakla v'tarya, that's higher than anything like that. So there are no words for that. And almost every Torah you see, you can look at the Torah from the Balatanya and Rosh Hashanah, which is all the Torah that's in the kol pashat, the simple kol, that simple call, that simple cry. And then Chazal tell us, the pasuk, they bring the pasuk, Ol Elokim b'sur, which we say by Kisha, Ol Elokim b'sur Hashem b'kol shofar. That Ol Elokim b'sur, that at the beginning there's this midah of Elokim. Elokim means where there is a midah sadin, where there is judgment. What did you do? What didn't you do? That's Ol Elokim b'sur. But the end of it is Hashem Yikir Vavka. Hashem b'kol shofar. Somehow through the shofar, again, I'm not going through each part of the tkiyas have different kavanas. The tkiyah, shvam, true tkiyah, all different kavanas. But the basic inyan is this ascent to a place that's higher than din. That's why Chazal say that Hashem hears the shofar, and he gets up from the kisei din. He goes to sit on the kisei rach. It moves Hakadosh Baruch Hu kivyochel over from the seat of Zer Anpin with the Chesed Gvur, with the normal Hanhaga of how he conducts this world, which is Midah Keneged Midah, and so on. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu is Kivyachal lifted up from that seat of Din, and he goes onto Kisei Rachmim, Hashem B'Kol Shofar. All the davening this time, I mean, throughout Elul, for instance, you see in the David Hashem Oyevi Yishi, which is, of course, Aryeh is Rosh Hashanah, Yishi's Yom Kippur. Hashem's name is mentioned 13 times. I mean, all the davening revolves around the 13 meters. Hashem's name is mentioned there 13 times in order to be ma'orah the midas, the Yud midas. This we were talking about the Arach Anpin and Keser, which is a metzias where there's no tzimtzum, and that's why it's a toivim meitiv la roim v'la toivim. You're good, you're bad. It's Knesset Yisrael, the way that Hashem knows we can be, and how He envisioned us when He created the world, and His Ratzon Ha'elyon of what He wants, which is the sound that we make when we blow the shofar. So this is higher than any of the than the name Elokim. Elokim always means, of course, din and simsim. It means already tit for tat, midah keneged midah. That's Elokim. But this goes to a higher place, and I don't know if I mentioned last week, but that's the famous Gemara in Brachos, where it's a very strange Gemara, and there's so much that's been written about it. But Hakadosh Baruch Hu, Rabbi Shmuel Kohen Gadol goes into the Kodesh Kodashim and Hakadosh Baruch Hu asks him. I'm sure you all remember, since it's not too far along in Shas, that Rabbi Shmuel Kohen, that Hashem asks Rabbi Shmuel Kohen Gadol, Bacheni b'ni. Hashem asked Rabbi Shmuel Kohen Gadol for a bracha. Hashem asked for a bracha. And the bracha was the Hiras Mufanecha, Sheyichbeshu Vachamecha Es Ka'ascha, V'tisnahi Gimanu B'mitzach Es Mizrach. The different gears. Rabbi Shmuel Kohen Gadol gave a bracha. He didn't say in the Gemara we couldn't even talk like this. But Rabbi Shmuel gave a bracha Kivyoch to Hashem. Yagoylu Rachamecha Al Midasech. Yagol, that may the rachamim, which means the midas rachamim, may it roll over Yagolu rachamecha, the racham al midasecha. On the midasecha meaning, not the yumas racham, but the lower midas in Zer Anpin. Yagolu rachamecha midasecha. And the Gemara even says that that Kivyochel Hashem himself has a tefillah. Yiratzim ufanai shiach b'shu rachamai es midaisai. Yagolu rachamai al. That's same nus. Hashem davens. Yiratzim ufanai. It's interesting. Yiratzim ufanai knows. Hakadosh Baruch Hu was davening. Hakadosh Baruch Hu was saying, I want Kivyochel to have the opportunity to be able to ascend to a place in my relationship with you that's higher than Midas Adin. Yichveshu rachamai as midaisai, yagoylu rachamai al midaisai, and that I should act with you in the Midas Aches and Midas Rachamim and so on. The same nusach that was used by Rabbi Shmuel Kohen Gadol. This is all about the Midas of Keser, Midah of Crown, Yigam Midas Rachamim. Look back inside. Mashanim Zechor Lana Brish Shleishesvei. So that's what we're saying in all the slichas. We're asking always to Hashem Zechor Lana Brish Shleishesvei. Remember the bris of the 13 meters. Remember, we're asking Hashem Zechor Lana Brish Shleishesvei. Biura Kaveman Shakadosh Baruch Hu Chidesh Bris Zu Shayugim Midas. Since Hakadosh Baruch Hu revealed to us this chiddush of the 13 midas harachimim, shekishemaskirim shvachim elu, and Hashem instructed Moshe Rabbeinu to teach us that when we use these shvachim these ways, that we praise Hashem in this way, and again the ikkur is to try ourselves to conduct ourselves in that way in our relationships with other people also. Notice if a person, there might be a person that you know that he treats you very, very nicely, and you like him, and because of that, he needs some help. You're good to him. That's very nice. That's very good. But then you have another person you're not so crazy about, and that other person has not always dealt so nicely with you. And afal pichein, you're able to be ma'orer apart within yourself, to have rachmanis on this guy, even though this guy is unworthy of your rachmanis, because he has not treated you nicely. He has not treated you nicely. Like the famous story, there are a million stories I think about, but the Satmar Rebbe is very famous, that there was an Israeli journalist or something that came in, that went into the Satmar Rebbe. It was quite a bit of chutzpah. He was desperate. His son was very, very sick, and he needed an operation. Here in America, he didn't have any insurance, didn't have any money. And people told him, go to speak to the Satmar Rebbe. This guy wasn't religious at all. Not only that, but he was a writer for, I think it was for Haaretz. He was famous for writing horrible articles against the Satmar Rebbe, terrible, disgusting things. And it's a very famous story that he went in. He just said his name and his son's name, Ben so-and-so, and he told him what's going on with the hospital. He doesn't have any money. The Satmar Rebbe gave him thousands and thousands of dollars, and made some calls to get more money for him to take care of everything. Anyway, the guy leaves, and the Satmar Rebbe's Gabi runs in and says, "Do you know who Rebbe? We found out you know who the guy is." And Rebbe said, "Who is he?" He says, "This is the journalist that's writing all these terrible things about you." So Satmar Rebbe says, go get him, see if you can get him. And they ran after him, and the guys were excited. You know, they ran after him, they brought him back in. He thought he was like a chicken before Kapparas, you understand? And the Satmar Rebbe says, "I don't want you to think that Chalila have any paid against you." And he wrote him out another check, like for extra money. "I don't want you to think they have any paid." What about the back and forth? And he's Zionist, not a Zionist, anti-Zionist, and all these. So the Rebbe, to him, this is all part of. These are all in Yonim in the Shakla V'Taya of the lower spheres. But you're telling me that you're a Jew and your son is sick. You see, the Chassidim don't always get that part of it. The Rebbe wasn't an Indian like that. We're not talking here about Chesed with the first Netzach. So we're talking about the Ratzon Elyon, that Hashem loves on you. So that this is a Yid. And I'm not checking into his articles right now. I'm not looking. It could be the next week the Rebbe will yell about him. That doesn't make a difference. This is not what we're talking about right now. So that's it. So a person, when a person is ma'ir that part of himself, that's toiv u'meitiv la'roim v'la toivim. You know, you have one kid that behaves very, very nicely. The other kid doesn't behave so nicely, and you treat each of them in the most beautiful way, regardless of that kid's behavior. You love the kid. It's a midah of Rachim that Kirachim of Albon came to Rachim Hashem Alein. It's Midas Rachim. And he brings over here what I mentioned a moment ago. So when it says to say these words, it doesn't mean just to say the words. That's why Chazal use the lashon asu lefanai, or kol pamsha tasu lefanai. There are different gears, but asu lefanai keseder hazeh. Asu lefanai. In other words, you have rachmanis on somebody that's unworthy. I'll treat you the same way. That's to be ma'ira the midas rachim. A Jew calls out to you like a shayfer that I need help, and you respond to that, and you don't check his sits, so you don't check whatever. And you do what you can for him. So asu keseder hazeh, asu lefanai keseder hazeh, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu responds in such a way. She'odim yisnahi kach. And that's why there's a minhag during this entire time of the year to learn the Sefer Talmud Dvarim. I'm sure some of you have heard. The Talmud Dvarim is by the Ramak, by Moshe Kadavera, the great Makubal, before the Ariyah. He knew the Arizal, the Mahalach and many things, but the Ramak wrote a small Sefer, the Talmud Dvarim. It's in English, there's many Mefarshim and so on. And the Talmud Dvarim is about the Yud Midas and the spheres, and how we can conduct ourselves in this. And it's written in a very simple way. It's not Kabbalah. How each one of us, how we conduct our lives according to those midas, and how that's ma'ira this higher Ratzon of Hashem Kivyon. That's what the whole Sefer is about, and that's why it's dafka learned during this time of the year. So look at footnote Dalet. Afterwards, we're going to, after we learn each of the spheres, we're going to spend some time learning in the Vayam Dakecha that Dov was kind enough to take care of for us, to learn the Vayam Dakecha, and to get a little bit more of the Or of the Baal Shem Tov Kodesh to fill in. So he brings from Nefesh Chaim, Shekosov Zel Shon. So Rabbi Chaim Volozhin writes Nefesh Chaim. As we learn, by Kriyas Yamsuf, Hashem said, what are they davening? What are they yelling? It's not, they're yelling to me. Let them do something. That if they will themselves go to a higher place of Emunah. Emunah comes from the Midah of Keser in a Jew. That's where our faith comes from. Emunah doesn't come from proofs. Historical, philosophical proofs. The source of the emunah of a Jew is the midah of Keser within himself. It's something higher than anything that's rational, that makes sense. So, emunah b'tochen required that they do something. Hashem says there's no inyan here of davening. Davening is davening. The words of davening are part of the the world of Zeranpin, the small phase. But in order to have a Yeshua here, they need to go to the Arachanpin, to the big phase, something bigger. That means they have to find something bigger within themselves. It's not just about saying a couple of words, which is very nice, but they have to go and do something different. And we did. We jumped into the water. We went ahead with the Emunah B'Tach. We went in. V'yisu haloich v'nasai aliyam samuch libam lo yira. Without fear, they went into the ocean. And they believed completely that Hashem would take care of them. Rabbi Chaim says that through that they caused his Eirus L'mayla. In other words, they were acting in a way of Keser, of Kram. They were acting, they acted upon their Emunah, and they went ahead even though it made no sense at all. It didn't fit into any structure of Chachma, Bina, Das, Chesed, Gut, Ves, Netz, Haved, Yisrael, and Malchus. It didn't fit into anything that made sense, into any of the spheres. That going into the water, that Lechtach Acharai of Am Yisrael, was Moira, the Midah of Keser, because they found the Keser within themselves, and it was Moira, the Midah of Keser. That this nace would take place, and the water would split. And the Gur writes in Shaar HaGan, Yanosi b'chag v'yasela. The pasuk says in Shaar HaGan that my dove is stuck in the cracks of the rocks. Seisam hadrega, the cracks, the cleft. Harinis marayich shashminias kailach. So the pasuk says when Bnei Yisrael, that's talking about Chazal says talking about Kriyas Yamsuf. We were stuck. We were stuck. We had on all sides. We had nowhere to go. So that was the Yonah. The Jewish people call Hashem's Yonah. And Yonosi b'chag v'yasel. So what do we do when we're b'chag v'yasel? What can you do? So we see that davening was not working. Davening was not the answer. So what was the answer? So the pasuk says, "Harinis marach v'shminis kailech." Harinis marach, show me what you look like. Show me how beautiful you are. Hashminis kailech, let me hear you screaming. Let me hear you calling. Your voice. Let me hear your voice. Chazal say that when we were there by the Yamsuf, we were like the Yonah that was being chased by this vulture, this hawk, and went to hide in the Kikah Sela. It was hiding in between in the rocks. Now we had enough. The Yonah is having service from this big bird, whatever this hawk, this vulture, and then the Yonah goes into the cracks, and then a snake starts to slither and to climb in over there. So she has nowhere to go. The Yonah has nowhere to go. Just like you remember, like Batman before the commercial. You know what I mean? Lahavdil. You know what I'm talking about, right? Yeah, there's no place to go. Yonasi b'chag v'hasel. And then there was a commercial. And afterwards it worked out. Yeah. It worked out. Yeah. So ve'ein la'manos, there's nowhere to go. And the Egyptians, so too the Egyptians were chasing after us. There was no place to hide for us anymore when we were staying by Yamsuf. We were surrounded. And even in Ruchnias, we were not on the highest madrega. And there were malachim, as you know, the malachim had tinus against us. So you saw Mitzrayim, even the malachim Mitzrayim is also fighting against us, had tinus against us. Show me something good. Do something that demonstrates, that proves that you're a Emunah. Show me something. You don't have to. It's not about words. Do something. Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, tell them to go in the ocean. How can we go in the ocean? Teretz says, we did. Miyad kofatz nachshain v'toich hayam v'Yisrael achro. So Nachshon was the first one, and everybody else was jumping in after him. Ad shuboy mayim ad nafesh, till the water came up to Chazal, the water came up to our necks. B'Yisrael omer hayshieni, and that was the coal. And we just didn't. It was like a shofar. It wasn't the whole fancy machzer. It wasn't all the davening. It wasn't a sound taikiv. It was just keval hayshieni, save me. Ramakash Baruch Moshe harem matchan. Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, okay, lift up the stick. Uchedivi agro akasav gan kem Bereishis Chacham. The Bereishis Chacham writes also. Zelushon. This is what the Bereishis Chacham says. Atam shahayu hashvatim noitzchin mi yikanes tchilah. There's an argument among the Shvatim. Chazal tell us who should go into the water first. So there are different ways of understanding that. If you look in Chazal and Mefarshim, some say that each one really did not want to go, so they're having a whole discussion. I'll go. No, you want to go? I'll go. No, you'll go. I'll go. Back and forth. Or they were fighting because they wanted to have the schus. We should go. But they should create yamsuf. But the point is, regardless of how we learn pshat in that, it was necessary that there be some hisoros, something that comes from a place of keser within ourselves, and going into a raging ocean. That's with emunah, not just it wasn't suicide. They went in there with emunah. Hisoros tachton. It's not a time to daven. Darba b'nei Yisrael. Tell them. Let's see. Tell them to go. Tell them to move forward. Yes, she has schilu heim lehikones leyam. Yora al hamanasam. The Reish Chacham says this would be a way of proving their faith. Sheikar lam hayam, that the ocean will split. Ubis hazeh, she has schilu heim yikar lam hayam. And that with this Isairis, which is the equivalent of Yudgim Midas Rachman, this act of Mesirus Nefesh, of Emunah and Bitochen in Hashem, that would be Ma'ora, the Midah of Keser above, and Yikar L'Mayam, and the water will split. Va'at, the next page, on the bottom, on page Ayin Ches, Va'at, the Haram is Matcha, lift up the stick, Unetei is Od Chalayom V'Keim, and divide the waters. When Nesha Sheva ben Yamin Hayu Yadin Sharish Nishmas Avim, Shum Makor B'Sharish L'Sayros Tachtel L'Chein Yischilu Hem Yad B'Chesha Gehu B'Kopzul L'Tarchayam L'Kach Zochu Sheshchina B'Chelkam. Okay, not going into the Chazals over there. Yehuda ben Yamin, Mashiach ben David, Mashiach ben Yosef, what was happening by the Yam. So according to this Mahalach, Sheva ben Yamin was the ones that were going first, wanted to go in first. And that because of that, there was Zeichet to be the place where the Kodesh Kodashim in the Beis HaMikdash when it would be built in Yerushalayim. But the bottom line is that his Chilu Heim Miyad B'Cheshach Uv'Kopsul L'Toich Hayom, there was an act of Mesirus Nefesh. The Kach Zochu Sheshchina B'Chelkam. There was Zeichet to have the Shechina in their Chelim. V'Ainu Beis HaMikdash and Nivna B'Chelka Shel Binyamin. So the Beis HaMikdash was built on that strip of the Chelik of Binyamin that came into Yerushalayim. V'nilbon b'inyan zeh. And what we learn from here, the Reish Chacham tells us what we learn from here. V'nilbon b'inyan zeh, shemishu roitze shekadosh baruch hu yasi imo neis. Listen carefully, because there are many times that this comes up. B'yom haim u'b'zman hazeh. That if a person needs something miraculous in his life, if God forbid, he's surrounded on all sides. It could be financially, medically, whatever it is, chalila. But b'derech hateva, the normal things don't seem to be working at all. Even davening doesn't seem to be working. Even though we don't daven for nisim, we don't daven for a nes, it's not the way to daven. But if a person is in such a matzav chalila, where there's no opening in Teva, and because it would require something miraculous here, because nothing that the doctors are saying, or nothing that makes any sense is going to help, is going to work. So you need to have a nes. Today was a day that was mamish, a day filled with nisim. Filled with nisim. That's what I wanted to say by Mincha, to say Mincha, because if he said Mizmah, I wanted to say Mizmah L'Sayda. We're always asking Hashem for help. We have to thank Him. I mean, it was terrible because there were Chaver that were killed in Yafa. There was Shem killed. There was a terrorist that killed them. It wasn't altogether such. There was sadness today, of course. It was a pachem. It was a pachem. But Nisim flows. Nisim flows. Somebody, not here, one of the Chaver sent me a clip yesterday. That what's going around in the Muslim world, which they're not talking about openly, what's going around is a terrible crisis of faith, because these are all very frum people. Nasrallah was a very frum guy. I mean, frum in that sheker, but he was very frum. All these people are very religious people. And the results of all of their religion doesn't seem to be working out. And there's this tremendous, not only is it not working out, but it's a v'nahafeichu, it's a whole gelechter. I was hoping that not only would the missiles not cause any damage, I thought maybe they would land in East Jerusalem, or maybe they would just stop and then turn around and go back. Because I feel lately, like I mentioned the other day, that I feel like we're living in Tanakh. I feel like it's Tanakh time again. Like the things that are happening. Nisim, mamish nisim, nisim. And someone was telling me that they're all over the web, all these places that they're talking about. This is crazy. What's been happening? everybody should be safe. There shouldn't be any Pischon per Chalila for something bad to happen. Everything should be Chasad and Gemurim, and all our enemies should be destroyed. But when you need a nace, so the regular things are not working. The whole kiyum of Am Yisrael, which Rabbi Yaakov Enden writes in his famous piece in the Siddur on Tisha B'Av, the whole kiyum of Am Yisrael is a bigger nace than any of the Nisim of Mitzrayim. And he wrote that at his time. When there was already a lot of bad things happening, but he didn't see the Holocaust. He didn't see any of that stuff. And Rabbi Yaakov Enden said that just the fact that the Jewish people are alive is a much bigger nace than any of the Nisim of Yitzias Mitzrayim. All the Nisim, today was a day that was filled with Nisim. Since I guess most of us here we don't know any of how this technology works and goes on with these bombs and so on. But just to go to sleep tonight and say, well, it was a mazel. This one landed over there. This one landed in the dirt. This one landed in the ocean. Well, that's not Pasha. I think there was one person who was killed. I think it was a Palestinian, an Arab. So it's not Pasha. It was a day of Gilui Kvei Shamayim, Erev Rosh Hashanah. There was such a thing of Hamelech that is, and the Rishonim, all they wanted to do was to take away from us Rosh Hashanah. That's all they wanted, is to take away from us Rosh Hashanah. That there's no Hamelech. Or the Hamelech is their Melech. And there was another bizayin for them. Another bizayin. It's Nisim. So he says that I'm sorry, who asked me an ace? Shushinu Hateva. What is an ace? An ace means that Teva, nature, is suspended. Something unnatural, something supernatural takes place. So in order for that to happen, the Beis Shammai says, just like by Yam Suf, first the person has to do something unnatural, something that transcends himself, something that transcends yourself, something great and heroic, whatever that is, but something great. Could be that you haven't spoken to your brother-in-law for the last 40 years because you had your beroigas. And I've had these conversations with people, and then there's somebody sick. I'm saying, you want to have a Tehillim chat? I say, it's a good thing, but if you really want to do something, why don't you try talking to your brother-in-law? What, that Rosh, that this, that. You're going to have to do something supernatural in order to open up that Or of Kesser, because right now it's very tight, it's closed. So it's very hard, because B'derech HaTeva, you're in a bad spot. Hashem Rachim, it's a bad spot. So you have to do something that's Chus Min HaTeva. Something that's Chus Min HaTeva. That you never, ever thought you could possibly pull off. Again, whatever that is, in your Avodas Hashem, I always tell the people when they have this conversation, don't tell anybody. Other people don't have to know about it. Don't talk, don't post it. Hey guys, you wouldn't believe what I'm doing now. Don't post it. Very privately, very quietly. Something heroic, something that's higher than yourself, that's bigger than who you are. That's what the Zohar says. Hashem said, don't daven. Davening is not. Hashem said, you could close down the chat. The davening is not happening, or it's not working. There needs to be something bigger than that. And that's bigger, it's called Atika, that means Kesher, that means the crown. Atika Talia. Kimishom Yishtana Hateva. Because that is Ma'or the Midas Rachmim. That is something which reaches the crown. What's a crown? Crown is something that's higher than your rational mind. It's what you wear. The crown is on top of your head, not in your head. So when a person is able to rise to a place that's higher than his rational way of thinking, and that's why right now, for these past 11 months plus, it's almost a year, there's been so much mysterious nefesh. We were talking about the beginning of the Milcham, so much mysterious nefesh. One for soldiers, one Jew for another Jew, and people with tzedakah, the amount of tzedakah that people are giving. There's a tremendous series of mysterious nefesh. Tremendous series of mysterious nefesh, of people transcending themselves in so many different ways. Only from such a place of Kesser, of the crown, which transcends Teva, can you go higher than the name Elokim, Yishapach L'Rachman. That's Ola Elokim B'Sur, Hashem B'Kol Shofar. There's something higher. And there's a reason why the shofar was blown when we would go to Milchama. The Chatzaitzos, the shofar, Chatzaitzos called Shofar Lifnei Haril Lifnei HaMelech Hashem. It's that scream to come to a place that's higher, to come to that place of the Kesser. He's going according to that Mahalach Nemedrash. Hutzuchu Sheva Binyamin Lasa is Dover Hepach HaTeva. So they had to do something which was Hepach, that was the opposite of Teva, of nature. Likfeitz l'Toich, and to be able to jump into the ocean, even though it didn't make any sense. It didn't make any sense at all. I gave you last time. I don't know if you still have it or you remember it. We could just start it for a minute, because at this point it's very important that we just add a little bit also in Chassidus, not from that sefer, but from a different kuntres. I don't know if I'm going to start now. This is 5 minutes. I don't know if it's today, but this is there's some of you might have seen, just to bring it to your attention, and we'll end for tonight, that there's a series of svarim that have been coming out like the last 6 or 7 years. Shaar HaGan, Shaar Tefillah, Shaar Shabbos, from a chevra of a whole machonin in Eretz Yisrael. I think the one who runs this is Rabbi Scheinfeld. I'm mistaken. Rabbi Scheinfeld is the one that runs it. And they've been putting out terrific svarim and contrasting on the most difficult topics in Avodas Hashem al pi derech HaChassidus, like the work of Bayom Dakecha in many ways. And they're all part of the same. These are Talmidim of Rabbi Shemaiah and so on. And so before Elul, they came out with Kesach HaMay Adam and Elul. And so Mitzvah Hashem, even though by next Tuesday it won't be Elul anymore, by tomorrow night it's not going to be Elul, but it applies to Yom Kippur that we're going to learn next week. And I just wanted to mention now that we're having 2 very chashuv guests that are going to be with us next week. I don't know what was put onto the email yet, but 2 very, very chashuv guests. 2 tzaddikim that I haven't met. I heard a lot about them. 2 are like very, very big lights that we have living here in America that are very humble, very hidden, but real rabbis, real tzaddikim. And Yeshkoach, to get to Rabbi Yeshua, that he was able to make the connection, because some of the guys went to see the Lulav Rebbe in Borough Park and the Amshnav Rebbe in Borough Park. So next Monday night, the Amshnav Rebbe is going to be in Yoel Wagshall's house, in one of the houses. I'm sure all the information will be out there. And then Tuesday night at 9 o'clock, so the Lulav Rebbe is going to be here with us. So we'll have time to have the shiur before, and then to be followed by a guest, Lulav Rebbe from Borough. Right? A good Erev Yantiv. Erev Hashanah is a Yantiv itself. So, a good Yantiv. Yeah.